All right, fellas, let's go ahead and move on over to the NBA. Six-time All-Star Paul George inked a 5-year max contract extension worth over $226 million this week. The deal keeps George in Los Angeles as a Clipper through at least the 2023-2024 season, with a player option for a season after that. The Clippers landed a massive trade for George last season, teaming him up with Kawhi Leonard. While their season did fall short of their lofty expectations, the Clippers now have half of their cornerstones locked down. So, Drink, did the Clippers make the right call by paying George?
Well, here's the deal. I think we jumped the gun a little bit. We should wait for Danny Green to sign his max contract too, since we're gonna keep signing people that didn't show up in the bubble. Let's go ahead and add him to the list too. But listen, it's the Clippers' money, I guess. Steve Ballmer, the richest owner in sports, period. He got the money. He wants to win. I guess this is a move towards wanting to win, or at least showing his duo, hey, I'm all in. I'm all in. Like he didn't show that last year when he traded 5 first-round picks. Either way, he's there. He's like, hey, I want to show it. No, I think this is horrible. I don't like it at all. But then I do see the bigger picture here. Because when you sign a player like Paul George to a 5-year, supermax, whatever, now he becomes your best trading asset. So I'm thinking, my logic is, you do one more year, you're going to run this back, and you're going to see what you can get out of it. If it doesn't bear fruit, you can turn that contract into a good trading chip, because it's going to be a max contract. I forgot the term that they use, but you're going to be able to stretch it out to match a younger player that you could bring back for Paul George. You might have to give up a pick or something, because Paul George, he's just not reliable. But just from the contract standpoint, I see it's kind of playing chess a little bit, because you still get him for 1 year. People wonder, why in the hell are you doing this? I thought that too, until I actually sat down and read a little bit and thought, that's not bad. A lot of these max contracts, when you see them, it makes it easier depending on the team to trade the player. Now, I know what you're saying. If that was the case, wouldn't James Harden be traded already? Well, Paul George ain't no James Harden, first and foremost. But James Harden is an example of why it would be hard. Because if you have a player that plays up to their contract, now it's harder to trade them. Like James Harden, they want, Houston want a new mansion. And then with that new mansion, they want a golf course. And then with that golf course, they want real live alligators walking across the golf. Like, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we want this and we want that. But it's James Harden. What do you expect? You thought we was going to ask for a little cottage? No. We want the noodles and caboodles. So I think from that standpoint, I understand it. Now, for my people that might be listening or watching, they saying, dang, man, you're a little hard on Paul George, ain't it? Like, just 2 years ago, he was third in MVP. And he was third in the Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, he was. And what happened? He also got one of the most famous shots in NBA playoff history, shot in his face by Damian Lillard. He damn near shot it from his parking spot. And they went home. So you can give me all that, but what else can you give me? Like, every time somebody referenced Paul George to me, he came up short. Give me the when he showed up big moment. This is why I have a problem with the contract. He came up short every chance he got when he was with Indiana. It was powerful Indiana team. Yes, he was the best player on Indiana. What did you get? A couple of trips to the Eastern Conference Finals? Oh, okay. Then he goes to OKC. Second, first, whatever, however you want to look at him, between him and Westbrook. He goes there. We think we're going to see this, awesome Paul George. Didn't quite get him, but we got the 1 year when he was third in MVP, third in Defensive Player, the Defensive Player of the Year runnings. Okay, cool. Yeah, so, okay, cool. What did you get for it? Oh, another early exit from the playoffs. Then you get him last year, right? So because some people want to use this as an excuse. Well, he had Westbrook. Westbrook can't shoot. Oh, okay. Let's go to Indiana. Well, he didn't have anybody in Indiana. His best player was like Roy Hibbert or Lance Stevenson, whichever one you thought was the best number 2 at the time. Okay, I give you that. So then you go to Clippers. He got Kawhi Leonard, like, considered the best two-way player in the NBA. That's still not enough. They still go out. It's just always something. For me, it's always something with Paul George, why he can't get over the hump. If we give Harden all this crap about being a playoff flake or Westbrook about being a flake without Durant, whatever the case might be, then it's time for PG-13 to get his too. If you want to keep paying them, keep paying them. I ain't mad at somebody getting their money. Get your money, PG. They want to keep paying you. You're worth what somebody will pay you. But I'm just saying this. What is he really worth? Because every time I see him on national TV, when playoff time comes up, it's usually an elimination game, and he the one getting eliminated. That's all I'm saying. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But that's what I've been saying out of Paul George. Especially, and I'm going to let George get into the semantics and this, that, and the third. But I just seen Anthony Davis get paid 5-year $190, and then Paul George get an extension 5-year worth $200. Like, cut me a break. Just cut me a break. You know what I'm saying? I don't. Sometimes I think I understand the NBA, and then I don't. But listen, for all that, I would say this. I understand. I think the Clippers they do have a long game. If they do not win the championship this year, Paul George will not be a Los Angeles Clipper next year. I guarantee you that. It's no way. That's why I think they gave him this money to be able to trade off of him and send him to some bottom feeder next year if it doesn't happen. It is what it is. Steve Ballmer, you got the money. Oh, yeah, by the way, he just bought the LA Forum. So he needs something to go into the LA Forum with the fact that his team just got bounced out of the bubble. So he damn sure can't go there with a banner. And if he go there with a banner, it's going to say runner up or some trash like that. So you can't go there with that. So with all that said, I think it was just a move for him to like try to keep the juice within the Clippers. And listen, Ty Lue might have something to say and say, hey man, just give me the duo back and they try to make it happen, boss. And he's like, all right, well, I got a few ducats. Let me go ahead and give him to Paul George. I like donating at this time of year. That's why he waited to December. Best money to donate right here. You know what I'm saying? Salvation Army. It's just all types of stuff. What we do, Toys for Tots? Well, Toys for Paul. You know what I'm saying? This is the time of year.
'Tis the season.
You know what I'm saying? Do great things and you get it back in force and all that good jazz that they teach you. So, boom. You know what I'm saying? He helping out. You know, he helping out the people. Shout out to Steve Ballmer on that one.
I don't love it either. Spoiler alert. I think some of his recency bias, because I think you can go back to 2 years ago when he came over to the Thunder and you talk about, third in MVP voting, and I think that was by far probably his best regular season performance. But just like I can't front with you. The last we saw of Paul George gives me a very bad taste in my mouth, because that was a monumental disappointment the way they exited the playoffs. And it was always my position when we looked at the Clippers and Lakers, the only like no question advantage was Anthony Davis being a better number 2 than Paul George. And all we needed was Paul George to play somewhat like himself. And I thought the Clippers would be fine. I think it turned into a little bit more than that because, some of these depth guys just, for whatever reason, couldn't get it done. Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, they just weren't the same in the bubble. So we had that going as well. So obviously it's not all on Paul George. And, of course, Kawhi Leonard takes, some of the heat because, his Game 7 performance against the Nuggets, it was pretty terrible. One of probably the most uncharacteristic performance of his career. But Paul George, to me, I think in the end, why I don't like this contract is Paul George is a superstar talent, but he doesn't perform like a superstar.
At least role player ability.
At least lately. That's what I see from him. That's why I don't love the contract. But then again, as you say, I'm not going to beat the Clippers up, but so much because maybe they feel like they had to do this because you just go back to the trade that they made to land him. What was it? 3 first-round picks that they gave up?
5.
And now, so maybe they feel like maybe they feel like, we do this thing again. We get Paul healthy, because he was in and out the lineup, with the injuries. Never really probably didn't have the best chemistry. I think there's some, maybe a little explanation if you're into that type of thing, and maybe Doc Rivers didn't use him the best. We've heard Paul George, make a few, jab-like comments at Doc Rivers. Oh man, I'm out here shooting too many threes, and I didn't like all the threes that he shot last year. I thought they used him way too much at the three-point line. I didn't like that he didn't seem as aggressive as I'd like to see him get into the hole. So, I think best case scenario, I think this, of course, it has a chance to work. But Paul George's got to come out there. He's got to live up to this contract. This, to me, I think obviously, you get paid what I think in general, you get your contract is what they're expecting you to do. You got to perform up to it. But sometimes people get paid for what they've done, and they're just expected to continue. Paul George isn't getting paid for what he just did because he didn't do much of anything compared to his talent. So I think there's a lot of pressure on him to live up to this, because if you come out there and you perform like you did last season, it's just not going to be acceptable. And the Clippers, to me, they didn't get better this offseason, in my estimation. The Lakers had a much better offseason than they did. The Golden State's going to be back. It's going to be competitive, and the Clippers, like it's unlike last year where we thought it was a foregone conclusion where it was going to be the Lakers and Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. It won't be like this. It will not be like that this season, especially if Paul George doesn't come back right.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on it, I guess, than you guys. Not much. I understand that Paul George probably in a vacuum isn't really worth a max contract at this point in his career at age 30, and the fact that we haven't seen the best of him in the last year or so. But I think there's a couple things you can point to and why the Clippers made a fairly smart decision. And again, oftentimes fans and people, and even people like us who study a little much more closely, we still think of everything in terms of either you're tanking or you're going for a championship. Like, that's what we think, right? I mean, I know there's teams that we obviously say they're in the middle, but the trajectory is usually straight up or straight down, you feel like. The Clippers just traded, like y'all said, like 5 first-round picks. They don't own their own first-round pick until 2027. There's no point to suck going forward. Okay, if this is maybe not working out and you just saw like it didn't really win you a championship, which is the only expectation, but you have to understand when you're the owner of a team, and especially when you're the Clippers and you're trying to establish a new identity, you got your new arena opening up, and you're trying to really build a solid team that contends every year, you have to build around somebody. And if you go ahead and get Paul George locked down, you've got half of that. Even if Kawhi Leonard takes off, though he wasn't eligible for an extension this year, he will be next year, or he can, sign a new contract, go to free agency, whatever. If Kawhi Leonard was to walk away right now and you just had Paul George, you're still going to be an okay team if you've got the salary cap room to build something around him. You'll have a legitimate NBA star for a few more seasons. I mean, I get Paul George wasn't great in the playoffs. I get that he had a down year, but he was still averaging about 21.5 points on about 30 minutes per night. I mean, that's not atrocious. And you have to think, coming back from 2 shoulder surgeries this following year, he'll be fully healthy. He's got clearly a vote of confidence from the team. He's got a big contract. We know that confidence was a problem with him this past season. It appeared to be, especially in the playoffs. You get that back, you're going to have a solid team. Even if you're not great, you're going to be okay. That puts fans in the seats, that sells tickets, that recoups your money, and that keeps your franchise going. NBA teams often, I think MLB kind of does this too. Sometimes it's not about winning championships. It's sometimes just about being good. Being good is sometimes good enough for some of these owners. And a team like that doesn't want to be bad. They want to be at least okay. And getting Paul George locked down gives you that, if nothing else. And it also says, hey, Kawhi, we already got half this figured out. You come in, you sign a big contract. We got you two. We can make it work almost every season. We're going to have a pretty good team every season. So I like it more from the team's perspective. And for Paul George, it's great. I mean, in that contract extension, you're 30. That's it. That's the last time you're getting paid, but you're getting paid every dime you can squeeze out of him. So, hey, good for you. And no more bouncing around for you, hopefully. But, again, you're talking about a guy that can be really good. And in the right circumstance, I think he can get back to what he was. And we'll hopefully see it, because if not, that contract is going to start looking bad in a few years.